Hello. Well, according to the government, only those people with something to hide are opposed to digital ID. We also had a lengthy comment on the channel saying the same thing, but sadly I can't locate it, or I'd have shared it with you. So, fellow criminal spies and degenerates opposed to digital ID, we're going to take a little deeper look at this twisted argument. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and still has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now then, if the argument that only people with something to hide are opposed to digital ID had got any substance, then it appears that most of the population must be degenerates in some way, because I've been talking to people and trawling the internet using such phrases as I support digital ID is a good thing, the benefits of digital ID, and so on, trying to find some support for the scheme. And you know, I can't find any. I can't find a single post, article or YouTube video in favour of it, except for a video by Professor Douglas Arner of the University of Hong Kong, who tells us about digital ID in China. Over there, everyone has a government-issued digital ID, and in order to have a mobile phone, you must use that as part of the process of getting the phone. As a result, everyone has mobile phones, and with all the biometrics installed on them, he claims that this has significantly contributed not only to China's digital transformation, but also their technological transformation generally. He doesn't say how, but I imagine it could be something to do with the fact that the population can't throw a sickie now without the police knocking on their door and dragging them back to work. He openly states, though, that it's the World Bank's pushing for digital ID, which he claims is so necessary for so many functions, including finance. And when did he make this post? Well, back in 2022. Just think how much further this has grown since then. Think of the control the banks could have over your spending or indeed your savings. But mind you, look at the guy. Check out that dreadfully frayed collar and mismatched tie. Perhaps digital ID hasn't helped his finances much. But despite his lack of a professional appearance, his comments about the World Banks back then ring so very true today. Many of our comments mention the WEF and the global banks. But you know, those very disingenuous comments about having something to hide if you don't want Digi ID really grinds my gears. I know it shouldn't. I know I should rise above it, but like probably 90% of the population, I have absolutely nothing to hide. Indeed, if you've seen the channel's very early videos, you'll know that I worked for around 34 years helping people to avoid being victims of crime and fraud and dealing with some of the most vulnerable people in the community. Now, all this needed the highest standards of honesty, empathy and trust. So yes, it does wind me up, even though I know it shouldn't. But you know, one thing I do hate is being tracked physically by my phone's location and online. And I've gone to great lengths to ensure that as far as possible, my privacy is protected on all my devices, and that includes my location and online services. I never use Google for searches, for example. I once Googled the British seaside resort of Lyme Regis on my PC, only to be bombarded across all my devices with adverts for holidays, hotels and events there from a wide range of websites. Like most people, I didn't read Google's terms of service, which no doubt will tell you that they share your search data. But I think we all know it's not so much shared as sold. So Google is making money out of my personal data. And I admit, sometimes, it can be useful. If, for example, you're using Google Maps as a sat-nav and then get information about places to eat or stay in the area. But it's not for me. And I can't see this getting any better under digital ID. So do I want a government-issued digital ID on my phone? More to the point, would I trust a government-issued digital ID on my phone? And the short answer is no, and it's nothing to do with having something to hide. There's a great website called Comparitech.com that published a blog last year, and I'll leave a link to this in the description. Now, they looked at 50 countries ranked by their GDP to see how many had introduced digital IDs. I thought you'd find the information very interesting. 37 of those 50 countries have fully implemented digital ID schemes, with the majority being mobile applications linked to physical ID cards. And as we know, Starmer does not intend to have a physical ID card, so for us it will be purely digital. There are 13 countries without fully fledged digital ID schemes, and they are in the process of discussing them or creating them, the UK being one. The majority of digital IDs collate personal data. 19 of the countries with digital IDs, also including biometrics, have a centralised biometric database. And I guess this is where the UK sits. And what does that mean for our privacy? Do you remember a debate some years ago about fingerprinting infants? This, if I remember rightly, was in the wake of some newborn abductions from hospitals and was supposedly to help identify newborn babies in the hospitals. That debate has since moved on to taking DNA swabs instead. Now, according to the website Babyland.life, and again I'll leave a link in the description, there are countries where babies are indeed fingerprinted at birth, though they don't say which countries. The rationale is that it helps to establish a secure and unique identity for the child from the very beginning of their life that could be crucial for various legal and identification purposes throughout their lifetime. Yeah, I bet it can. Of course, that's one reason why we don't want that to happen here, isn't it? And I've no doubt the government would love to fingerprint all its citizens, but we'd fight tooth and nail on that, wouldn't we? However, how about sneaking it in by including biometrics in the ID scheme? That way they get one positive fingerprint or face scan from virtually every citizen that they could store in their database. You'd have to use your face scan or fingerprint to access the information and confirm who you are. Now, keeping it on a central database might help to cut down on crime, but what an invasion of privacy and overreach that would be. Just as frightening, but not surprising, is that the study found that all of the existing digital IDs are used for accessing government services, with many also being linked to banking and healthcare. And for the UK, that will almost certainly happen. And it's another control metric, isn't it? Many commentators have speculated on the control it would give your bank to control your spending, or the NHS to control your eating habits and exercise. Finally, of those 35 countries with smartphone apps linked to digital IDs, only 6 of those apps don't collect data off the device. Bet that's going to not happen here either. I reckon they'll all be collecting data. And again, out of those countries, Nigeria, out of the 35 countries, Nigeria scored the lowest, which means their use of digital IDs are potentially invasive, limiting and lacking in data privacy. Again, I wonder if that's where the UK would sit. As for India, whose system is the biggest in the world, well, it's a cautionary tale there that the UK should take note of. Just like Starmer's spin, it's voluntary, but citizens in India are severely limited without it, just as they will be here. However, India's biometric database is not accessible to law enforcement, and it doesn't collect any personal data, which I'm sure is far removed from our intended version. But unfortunately, there is a prime example of how these systems can fail and lead to huge data breaches. In 2023, the data of 815 million Indians was leaked on the dark web. Stolen information included names, addresses, phone numbers and passport information. And also a massive fraud scheme was uncovered whereby the victim's biometric data for the ID's payment system was targeted. Wow. I just don't see how our government can protect our data any better, especially given that some of our digital ID infrastructure was subbed out to Romania, listed as the world's biggest cybercrime threat. And if they've not created a backdoor into our system, then I'll be very surprised that they would have missed that opportunity. Now, Comparitech's blog agrees with most people that these systems are vulnerable to abuse, from the risk of data breaches to increased surveillance, and digital IDs will enable governments to track citizens' movements, financial activities, healthcare records and more. And often these digital ID schemes are brought into place without adequate data protection or legislation. Legislation I'm sure we'll get. Data protection, maybe in theory. And we know for a fact that there are many people in the UK whose access to digital services and online platforms is limited through age, mental capacity, physical limitations, or by simply not owning a phone or having internet connectivity. And whilst they might consider themselves lucky that they can't get a Digi ID, it will immediately isolate them and limit their access to some essential services. So, I say again, to those who claim that we have something to hide for not wanting a digital ID, that is a disingenuous thing to say. And there are plenty of legitimate reasons, as we've mentioned today. And I reckon those who walk willingly into this nightmare will quickly come to regret it. What do you think? This digital ID thing, I think everyone hopes and a lot of people think is going to be kicked out and will never come to see the light of day. The bigger issue around it is the one login system on the government websites, because it's the same thing. It's the framework, it's the basis for this digital ID system. And they're already bringing that in. They will expand one ID, one login to cover everything. And unless you sign up to that, you won't get access. The advantage is if you're doing it on things like your PC or tablets, then potentially they won't get the biometric data. It'll just be a physical password protected login as usual. I don't know what to make of it. Anyway, guys, I know you've got nothing to hide if you don't want it. If you do want it, if you think it'll be a good idea, tell us why in the comments, without the insults that were thrown by a couple of people who were in favour of it, potentially. They could have just been trolling, who knows. But give us a reasoned argument. We will always look at other sides of the coin. That's it for now. I don't know what you think of all this. I know what I do. If you like the video, please share it, please like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you've not done so. We'd appreciate that very much. It makes a huge difference to us and our reach. The more people that share and subscribe, the further we can get our videos out there to reach more people. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining us, and until the next time on Grey Matters, bye for now.